So in today's class, I'll give you a brief background, like how will you deal with economy answer writing. Okay, I'll also show you some sheets also. And how are we going to use one second. Okay, so going very fast, like what we have to do is, first of all, with respect to, I've given some reference books for you for reading. So students have doubts with respect to those reference books. So I'll try to address that once. And second thing is, how do you structure your answers for economy? Sir, if we read the reference book, are we going to write well? Or do we need something else also? Now, this is a doubt which most of you have. So that I have to address first. Okay, so here, first of all, remember
recording in progress.
Okay, so first of all, in UPSC basically, you should remember that by reading one book or a textbook, we cannot write good answers, because if you see the syllabus, one best thing is you have. So, one is preparing bullet points for each area of syllabus. So that means one good thing what you have to do is preparing short notes for every area. In fact, I have done it for the whole syllabus. In fact, like for not only economy, this is something which you have to do for each and every area. Okay, so select the syllabus topic, take the syllabus topic, and prepare 6 to 7 lines on each topic. There is a benefit. There is a benefit of doing that. So every area you have to select bullet points. Or you have to write bullet points, prepare notes that way if you have to prepare notes. Remember this. Okay, so that is one thing. Second aspect is, sir, you have given Mishra and Puri as reference. I don't like Ramesh Singh, so, and Ramesh Singh, if you want to read, you can read, but for mains especially, Mishra and Puri is a good book. But Mishra and Puri is bulky, no sir, so how do we read it? So you have to read Mishra and Puri selectively. Remember this, Mishra and Puri has to be read selectively. Somebody who is good at reading Mishra and Puri, you can read more chapters, otherwise read selectively. For example, agriculture, once you can give a reading with respect to Mishra and Puri, because agriculture is good, industry is good. Okay, so like that you have to select some core topics. Liberalization you can read. Okay, from where more questions are coming, jobs related, job market, etc. Okay, so there are questions coming from there. So such areas you will be reading Mishra and Puri. Now, third important aspect here. Just because we have read Mishra and Puri, it doesn't mean that you can answer every question in the exam. That's not going to be the case. So if you see this question paper, let's see this. This is 2016 question paper. Okay, so if you see, just see the questions now. Now, by reading any particular book, do you think we can be in a position just by reading a book? It's not that you can do justice. It should be a combination of your concepts as well as your newspaper reading. Combination of concepts, that is book reading, along with newspaper reading. Both should happen, and only then we can do justice to certain questions. Okay, and along with that, economic survey. Reading of economic survey is good in the sense like you will get some good points from the economic survey which we can use wherever required for writing answers. So this is one more suggestion which I wanted to make. So economic survey, selectively you can select topics. For example, every year if you see the exam papers, jobs you have a question. Unemployment you have a question. Problems, unemployment, etc. They talk about growth every year one or the other question comes, that is growth and development, etc. Okay, for example, here if you see, this is about employment, how globalization has led to reduction of employment in the formal sector of Indian economy, is increased informalization detrimental to the development of the country. Now just observe the questions, don't worry much about what the answer should be. So here what you should understand is, just by reading globalization from a particular book, you cannot write great answers for this. But of course, Indian economic development, which is our NCRT, it has this area. If you have read Indian economic development, 3 to 4 points you will definitely get from that particular book for addressing this particular question. That means Indian economic development is one such book which definitely you have to read it once. Okay, that is the basic NCRT. Revise it once. That is number one. Number two, check the areas where questions are coming. Jobs, unemployment, growth and development, globalization, 1991. So separately, you will prepare material. How will you prepare material? Each area of syllabus, you have to prepare 5 points, 6 points. Or you can use this way. I have another style of preparing material. Okay, so I do it this way. Of course, I don't suggest everybody has to do it in this way. Okay, so you can use different ways of preparing material. This is another way of preparing material where in a shortcut way basically. Okay, so for example, if you see this question. Okay, so just an example here. India's growth process after 1991 reforms is described as service-led growth. Analyze its major impacts on Indian economy. Do you think service sector growth is sustainable in the long run? Explain using facts. Okay, so now the question is, that means when you're reading 1991 reforms from the textbook, just by reading 1991 reforms, we cannot address this question. You have to link up 1991 reforms with the services sector, number one. Number two, what we have to do is, along with that, okay, do you think service sector growth is going to be sustainable in the long run? That means service sector is contributing to almost like major chunk of the GDP. We all know that. So we know that service sector growth is almost contributed to 57% of our total output. Okay, and the growth of service sector is one such sector which is growing at a faster pace, 9 to 9.5. Of course, now it has come down. That's a different thing after COVID. So under such circumstances, do you think this growth which is coming from services sector will be sustainable in the long run? Okay, and whenever we see a question, you have to divide the question into different parts and address each area of the question. This is also one more important aspect which you please keep in mind. So for example, if you see this question, India's growth process after reforms is described as service-led growth. So India's growth process after reforms is described as services-led growth. Okay. So why is it described as services-led growth after 1991 is one aspect. Analyze its major impact on Indian economy. What was the impact of this services-led growth on Indian economy? Another area there in the question. That means for that area also you have to write some points. Do you think that service sector growth is sustainable in the long run? This is the third area in the question. 3 divisions I have done. So India's growth process after reforms is described as services-led growth because the contribution of services sector to GDP has increased after 1991 reforms. Very simple. After BOP crisis, okay, we have opened up our economy. Okay, we all know that. And we have implemented economic reforms in the form of LPG. That is what I have written here. And India was able to cross the Hindu rate of growth. So we were getting our economic growth, GDP growth rates were less than 3.5, which was called as Hindu rate of growth. So we were successful enough in terms of crossing the Hindu rate of growth. And the major contributor in terms of crossing the Hindu rate of growth was the services sector. That means because of services sector only, we were able to cross this Hindu rate of growth. That is something which we know, and which you have to have this information with you. Okay. And here another major aspect is explain using facts. Now this is a difficult thing. So that means whenever I am preparing services sector, contribution of GDP to services sector, impact of COVID on services sector, I should have data and numbers in hand. When I am preparing my material, I have to put the latest data and facts at one place. So many a times we don't do this. You have to have data and facts at one place so that you can substantiate your answer. So can you tell me one book, sir, where all this data which is related to this question, all the areas can be addressed? There is no such book. So maybe Mishra and Puri will talk about, yes, services sector, how did it contribute, how services sector was successful in after 1991, yes. But what about the latest facts related to services sector? That we cannot write unless and until you update it from the newspaper or the latest economic survey. So this is something which is very important. So one is dividing the question and addressing each area of the question. First thing. Second, whenever we are preparing a particular topic, you have to make short notes of it. And when we are preparing short notes on services sector, etc., we also have to prepare for facts and figures as well. If some topper is saying facts are not required, I also know personally, I have trained many toppers, so I can say 100% some facts are necessary. You can take it from me. After doing a lot of research only, I'll come and say that yes, some facts are needed. Because just with English, you cannot substantiate an answer. How do you substantiate an answer? Here it says explain using facts. Or he can say substantiate. So substantiate means you cannot substantiate a particular aspect just by writing English. Today services sector contribution to GDP is more. How much? Services sector contributes to very less employment. How much? In future, services sector, in the wake of artificial intelligence, there is every risk that services sector can be going down. How? What are the facts and figures? At least, I'm not saying dump the answer with facts and figures, but at least you should have few facts and figures. Remember this. At least you should have few facts and figures. Okay, it's very, very important. Okay, so any doubts in this? Yes, students, any doubts you have here? Is it clear? Till here? Till here everything is clear. Okay, so if you see this question basically just to get an idea like how do you prepare for the exam. So I have written something like BOP crisis, LPG policy. Okay, so focus on external sector. You liberalize the external sector. Since we, not audible. Blink avutundi malli. Is it audible, everybody? Somebody has messaged that it's not audible. Okay, so you blink out until battery. Okay, fine. Okay, so now now this services sector. See here, this is giving my picture of my answer. 1991 economic crisis, brought in reforms, came up with liberalization, liberalized external sector. Okay. Due to that, services sector contribution increased and India was put into high growth trajectory. Everything I've stated in this flowchart. Of course, I'm not talking about flowcharts here, just to show you. So when we brought in these new economic reforms, okay, we brought in something like liberalization. Okay. So along with that, we reduced import tariffs. We came up with deregulation. Regulation means government control was high. Deregulation, controls were liberalized. We also reduced tax rates. The difference between 1960s, 70s and after 1990s is bringing in reforms with respect to tax. So based on the recommendations of Raja Chellaiah committee, so there were some suggestions which were made. So one of the suggestions was widen the tax base, reduce the tax rates. So we all know that a continuously increasing tax rates is not a solution to increase revenue. Laffer curve. In your prelims, you would have read Laffer curve. So tax rates have been reduced. We brought in open markets. Open market trade has been increased, which contributed to increase in economic growth. There's so much of content in this I think even in this structure which I have written here. Okay, so that you have to write it in the form of paragraph. Okay, so that has led to increase. We were successful in increasing the economic growth of the country. Now, what is understandings here? India's growth process after 1991 is described as services-led growth. That is what I am talking about here. India's growth process after 1991 is described as services-led growth because services sector was a major contributor to cross the Hindu rate of growth. This is what I meant. Okay, but at the same time, what are the impacts of service-led growth? Now, this is another area. Second part of the question, impacts on the economy. Its impact on the economy. So impact on the economy, if you observe what is the impact on economy, if you look into it, manufacturing was stagnant. We did not focus much on manufacturing. Manufacturing remained stagnant, which is something which you all should be knowing. Okay, and manufacturing contribution to GDP was less. Even today, if you compare with China, India's contribution with respect to manufacturing is less. So if you GDP, so that is the reason, there are campaigns like Make in India campaign, etc., which that Modi ji is talking about. Okay, now along with that, if we see agriculture, there was no much improvement. Okay, so you started focusing on services, and services was contributing to growth, but people were not, we couldn't shift people from the primary sector to the tertiary sector. First of all, we failed in shifting people from primary to the secondary because we neglected the manufacturing and over focus on tertiary sector, and most of the tertiary sectors were knowledge based sectors like IT and IT enabled services. You cannot shift people from primary to tertiary. So obviously people's dependence on land increased. Therefore, there was more pressure on agriculture, which has led to the problem of disguised unemployment with respect to the agriculture sector. When we talk about poverty, unless and until you create jobs with respect to the manufacturing sector, you cannot handle poverty, which is a very clear-cut thing. So if you have to handle poverty, job creation is important. And when it comes to job creation, there is unskilled labor and skilled labor. That is one more area where we failed with respect to manufacturing. So though services sector was contributing to 57% of GDP, its contribution when it comes to employment was very, very minimum. Now this is a graph. You have to draw graphs in 15 marker wherever it is required. So what I'm trying to show in this graph, change in contribution to GDP with respect to services led growth. You will get this. So in 1990, if we see, okay, so 1990s, if we see, here we have contribution, agriculture 32%, industry 27%. Okay, now in 2003, if we see, okay, you have industry 27%, it is stagnant, but services 51%. It clearly shows, okay, so bypassing the industrial sector, very clearly shows bypassing the industrial sector after 1991 reforms. We can show this graph in the exam. So graphs, so that means when you are preparing notes on service sector 1991, job creation after 1991 or industry impact after 1991, you have to prepare the related data related graphs. Wherever possible, we have to dump the graph to show that fellow, I have facts. I am clearly indicating this was the situation after 1990. Okay, so this is one more area which I want you all to focus, which can give us half additional mark because we are already ready with the graph. You're not going to think in the exam hall, oh, service-led growth, I will draw a graph. It's already there in the notes. We are going to dump it in the exam. Okay, so that is one more thing which we have to keep in. So now if I have to look into the impact on the Indian economy, okay, so there was a shift with respect to knowledge sector. So impact, when we talk about impacts, there can be positive impact, there can be negative impact. This is how you prepare the notes also, your bullet points also. So when we are talking about positive impacts, you have India was pushed into the growth trajectory because of services sector successfully, sir, from 1994 to 2004. From 1994 to 2004, services sector, if we see, the growth was growing. Service sector was growing at 7.5%. Okay, indicating that services sector was very much important to cross the Hindu rate of growth. Hindu rate of growth, low levels of growth, 3.5, less than 3.5. Service sector contribution coming to 7.5, we were able to cross 3.5% growth, we reached 6% by 1996, economic growth, and major contribution was coming from services. It's a fact. Okay, from 1997 to 2002, services export growth was 17%. Services sector export growth 17%, but manufacturing export, merchandise export was less than 10%. So services sector was a major contributor to our exports also. This is one more positive aspect which I'm trying to push, and I'm trying to show it through a number here. Okay, so one way of writing, manufacturing sector, services sector exports were more than manufacturing sector. This is English. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, if there is a scope for writing a point with a fact which will bring in validity and as per the demands of the question, you have to push the fact. Okay, then services sector, regulatory oversight is less. When we compare services with manufacturing sector, Regulation is more in manufacturing. That means what we talk about license, brick and mortar businesses, manufacturing sector. Okay, the excise inspector comes in, you have the government approvals, etc. So taking that into consideration, if I have to compare that with IT industry, the regulatory systems or regulation is less. So IT industry is only one such industry in India which has developed without political alliance, without the nexus with the politicians. Otherwise, in India, why is it that so very it's difficult to do businesses? There's always this nexus between business and the political class. Unless and until you have that nexus, you cannot do business, because for getting licenses, for getting your approvals, for getting your sanctions, you need to be very close to the powerhouses, especially the brick and mortar businesses, the construction businesses, whichever business it is. But only industry in India which has developed without the nexus with the political class is the IT industry after 1990s. That is why you have very good entrepreneurs or people like Narayan Murthy, soft people like Narayan Murthy were also able to do it because it is IT industry. Okay, so that is something which have regulatory oversight. Then I have written contribution to FDI. Okay, so contribution to FDI 1995 to 1999, if you see, okay, so contribution to FDI share increased from 10.5% to 28.5%. So FDI is a major contributor to economic growth, and the increase with respect to contribution to FDI you can see. Like this, you have to prepare notes. When you're preparing notes, along with the content, fact also should be there. Okay. Now this is some positive I have given. So similarly, negatives are there. What are the negatives? Impact on disguised unemployment. Though services sector contributed to the growth of the country, its contribution when it comes to employment was very limited. So employment contribution was hardly 23%. So it has led to jobless growth. Impact on Indian economy, second part of the question, jobless growth. Okay. And over dependence, service sector contribution to GDP, agriculture had to suffer. Okay, 1990s. People like M.S. Swaminathan made statements saying that the LPG policy did not bring any benefit to our agriculture, and most of the people, around 47% of the people even today, are dependent on agriculture for livelihood. This is something which we all know. Okay, so this is a point there. And manufacturing sector was stagnant, did not contribute to growth, and this is very important because when we talk about manufacturing, labor intensive manufacturing is there. Even in service industry also, there are certain services which are labor intensive services. For example, when we talk about the hotel industry, the restaurant industry or tourism, these are labor intensive services sector which create employment also. For example, tourism is going to improve automatically. The guides there will get some job, the area will develop, the restaurants keep running, job creation will happen. But when it is knowledge-based sector alone, technology-based sectors, everybody will not get employment. So even in services sector, there was more contribution coming from the knowledge-based sectors. Labor-intensive services sectors like the tourism sector did not develop much after 1991. That is the reason. That is also one of the reason for not being able to create employment. See, this is something like, these are some points which you have to observe. So labor intensive services was neglected in comparison to technological services. So that is one more aspect. And more employment generation, more income, it has led to inflation also. And income inequalities. So whenever a country is moving from developing to developed, okay, so there is this concept of Kuznets curve. Okay, initially with economic growth increasing, and now that growth is coming from services sector. So people in urban areas, their salaries will increase faster in comparison to people in rural areas. There will be a gap. Okay, along with growth, Kuznets curve talks about increase in inequality. That's a common thing. But after a certain period of time, okay, if you see the graph, the Kuznets curve graph, I need not draw the graph in the exam. So along with the growth, inequalities will increase up to a point, and after that point, then only they'll talk about employment generation, distribution of income, schemes for the poor. So you want to reduce the disparity between rich and poor. So stopping the division is not possible. Stopping the disparity is not possible. But if our manufacturing sector would also have increased along with the service sector after 1991, this inequality would have been little less in comparison to the present scenario. This is one thing. Okay, now this is one area. Now, another area is remember that there is this sustainability in the long run. So that is also one part of the question which you cannot write in conclusion saying like, okay, services sector may be sustainable in the long run provided government also focuses on tourism, focuses on labor intensive sectors, etc., etc. You end the answer. Many students do that. That means you are trying to address the last part of the question in the conclusion by writing 2 lines, but that is a separate entity where at least you have to push some points. That is the reason you have to divide the question. When you divide the question, automatically each area can be addressed. This is one more thing which you have to remember. So there, then you have to think of the sustainability of the sector. So sustainability of services sector is possible, and there should be a balance between growth and inclusiveness. Of course, we are not drawing diagrams. This is only for reference. So trying to bring a balance between economic growth on one side, you have to balance inclusiveness on the other side. If you are able to do this, only the sustainability with respect to services sector will last longer. Okay, so you have to have an integrated service policy. When you're coming up with policy, so this is called as policy paralysis. So integrated service policy, that means you are having uniformity with respect to policy making. Okay, and you also you also focus on semi-skilled and unskilled labor. You're not focusing on semi-skilled and unskilled labor over a period of time, there will be a problem. And along with that, when we talk about services sector, after LPG policy, remember, LPG policy has led to informalization. LPG policy has led to informalization. Rather than formalization, informalization or informal jobs have increased after 1990s. So, LPG policy has led to informalization of Indian economy. There was this question that was asked. I'll show you the question also. So, that means along with focusing on service sector, you also have to focus on formalization of services sector and formalization of Indian economy. Only then you will be able to create stable and sustainable jobs on one side. You will be able to provide social security, formal jobs, social security. And at the same time, only in a formal economy, tax collections will be higher for the government. That means tax to GDP ratios will increase for the government. Revenue generation will happen for the government. So government can spend money on schemes, etc. All that can happen through formalization. And only in formal economy, okay, so the money will get channelized into the banking system. Now, because of that, credit expansion will happen, and thereby growth will also will increase, and stability will be there, and sustainability of services sector can happen. Okay, so along with that, okay, so you also have to focus on agriculture and manufacturing. You cannot just depend on services sector, and we have to focus on education and skill development. So service sector is a knowledge sector. So therefore, focusing on education and skill is very, very important. And along with this, if you want to make services sector sustainable, you also have to focus on labor intensive services. So what I'm trying to explain here is, from the division of question till you have to address each area, and then only you can come up with a conclusion. In the present scenario, in the wake of COVID crisis, okay, so knowledge sector like IT industry is one such sector which is doing well, predominantly better than other sectors. But to make things more sustainable, government has to focus enough on skill development programs, balancing manufacturing and service industry, and vocational training, etc. So like that, bring in some conclusion in the current aspect. Okay, so that is something which you have to do in the conclusion part. So I got the point, right? So preparing notes is an art. Don't write more. Every area, bullet points only you will be mentioning, and you have to structure your answer this way. So I've done it in detail to make you understand. Yes, okay, so this is how you have to focus on. Okay, till here? Understood, no? Clear, everybody? Yes? Okay, fine. So, right. So Mishra and Puri, selective reading, but just you have to prepare notes on areas. You have to prepare notes, separate 5 lines. If there is a particular topic in syllabus, there should be some 6-7 lines on that in your notebook. That is how you prepare notes. This has to be done for the whole syllabus, remember this. Okay, so whenever there is some question, you can use those points and finish 10 markers also. And you have to enrich your answers, etc. from newspaper. That is one more thing which we have to do. Okay, for areas like agriculture, we have Niti Aayog reports also, 2017 Niti Aayog report. Okay, if you have time, go through it. Otherwise, your regular books you will read and update from budget is sufficient, and our model answers will help you. Okay, no sir, I want to read, then definitely yes, Niti Aayog reports you can read. Okay, reading newspaper for at least 40-45 minutes, direct newspaper. Okay, rather than somebody's interpretation on newspaper. Okay, some good article you find, it is there in syllabus. Once you prepared material on syllabus, you know what is there in the syllabus. So that area comes up in the newspaper, you have to spend time. For example, one nation, one ration card. Okay, or how do you benefit migrant workers in the wake of COVID? Government policies right now. Okay, so the role of MGNREGS in enriching supply chain in the rural areas, because COVID second wave have affected the supply chain in the rural areas. The difference between first wave and the second wave is very clear. For example, in the first wave, the insecurity was less. So people were ready to spend after the lockdown. So therefore, pent up demand was high after the first wave. Pent up demand, the demand spike was high because people were ready to consume. Now, presently, though you are ready with respect to vaccination, people may not be ready enough to consume more because there is always this at the back of the mind that there can be a third wave. So therefore, people may save more than consume, and therefore demand may be less and it can affect the economic growth. So pent up demands may be less. Pent up demand is going to be less. Okay, so like this, now this is therefore, how do you use MGNREGS with respect to strengthening the supply chains, especially with respect to agriculture in the rural areas? Because if COVID has affected rural areas, even agriculture can get affected now. So how do you handle it? Like that. So anything related to syllabus, if there is an article which is coming up in the newspaper, we are pushing some editorials in the newspaper, etc. So that is how we have to do it. Yeah, Sudesh has some doubt. Sudesh, your doubt is how to write introductions or how to write introduction for the question we have discussed?
How to write introductions.
How to write introduction in general, right?
Right.
Okay, Sudesh. So I'll do that. I'll come to that. Now that is the next thing I'll do. I'll come to that. How to write introduction will be the next area. Okay, just give me 2 minutes. Okay, so this is Niti Aayog reports, etc. Okay. Somebody has pushed how to make notes related to facts. Okay, I'll address that. Radhika, I'll address that. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so that is the third thing. Fourth, sir, I have read the complete syllabus, but today you have to take the test, right? So that probably today let's try to understand everything. You're ready to take the test. The question papers are ready, or you can take it tomorrow. Sir, we have read the complete Mishra and Puri related topics. We have read our class notes, but we are not able to write answers. That is quite natural. There is no need to panic. That is what I want also. Because that is what happens in UPSC, where you write answers, where you read everything, log GSM. Okay, so where you read everything from the textbooks, but in the exam hall, then and there you have to frame answers. So that means if you're not able to check the answers, that means you're not able to write answers means that's okay. Okay, initially that will be there. So out of 5 answers, if you're able to write 2 also, it's okay. So don't lose your confidence. Okay, so initially, sir, I am not able to write, so don't stop writing. I am making it very clear. So just because you are not able to write, you will not stop writing. That's very, very important. You will not stop writing. You have to continue writing. Two questions you will write, 3 questions you will write. So in a test discussion, you will be watching the videos and you will understand, okay, how to write. And maybe from the model answers, you will get to know. From the 3rd or the 4th test, your confidence will increase. But don't stop writing. Many times what is happening is, okay, you're not able to write 1 or 2 questions. Sir, okay, some difficult areas are there. You've not read ethics, sir, we're not able to write. Then probably you can read and write. But initially, directly go to the question paper and take the question as it is, how you take it in the exam hall. Don't read related content and write. First of all, start writing straight away. And then if you're not able to do it, you're not getting any idea, then only you resort to this like reading again in the Google and writing and all. So that will be the last thing which you will do. Very important aspect. Direct answers only I want to see, whatever you have written, rather than looking into facts. That facts I will know later you do. Please, because I want to know where you stand. I want to monitor your performance from the beginning. So because these mentorship batches are purely stressful batches, especially for me and the team, because very few students come for answer writing here, and at the same time, there's a lot of effort we put in with respect to answer writing batch. So only thing is, this effort should. Now is it audible? Okay. No? So no panic. Continue writing, which is one more suggestion. Okay, very, very important. Continue writing. Okay. Please don't stop writing. If you stop writing, effort will go waste. If you're not writing today, write it tomorrow. You're not writing tomorrow, write it day after, but please write. Please write. That is one. Otherwise, there's no point. Okay. That is one more thing. Okay. So then, model answers you can refer later. So I am again making it very clear. Model answer does not mean that's the best answer. Model answer is yes, somebody has written and it is will give you a decent picture with respect to the answer. Your answer may be better than the model answer, but it gives a picture like, okay, this is the content which you have to cover. This is how you have to structure. Okay, so that is the role of the model answer. Okay, so that is one more thing. Okay, sixth, reading newspaper, any related area, for example, related economy, you find some bullet points, please make a note of it. Note of newspaper. I'm not talking about coaching institute video or something. I want you to make notes from the newspaper. 5 lines, 4 lines, etc. That's all. Okay. That's it. Then, in the initial few tests, you are not focusing on speed. In the initial few tests, you are not focusing on speed. I am okay with that you're not focusing on speed. In the initial 4 or 5 tests, you are not focusing on speed. It's okay. Okay, initial 10 tests also, but at the same time, for example, you have to write an answer in 9 minutes, you are taking 15 minutes. Okay, or you are taking 20 minutes, but you should have the timing in mind, and if possible, I want you to write it at the top, like how much time you have taken for writing an answer. You have taken 15 minutes, please mention it. You have taken 20 minutes, please mention it if possible, so that I'll get to know where you stand in terms of speed also. So that over a period of time, by the time economy is over and you start writing ethics or some history, I want you to come down to 12 minutes, 15 minutes, 16 minutes, then you will come down to 10 minutes. So like that, there should be incremental improvement with respect to your speed also. One is content. Content alone is not sufficient. Speed is the most important aspect, because completing 18 questions to 20 questions in 3 hours, it's not an easy task. So speed also has to slowly improve, and by the time your next prelims is over, you should be good with respect to content. Decent amount of speed also you should have achieved, and then only we can ace the mains exam. So please remember this one more aspect which is very, very important, that is speed. Slowly incremental improvement should be there with respect to speed. Okay. 8th, and this is for those students who are from regional medium background, who know that their grammar is bad, who know that they cannot structure answers properly because of language issues. I have some students who have definitely improved, but remember, don't give up in the initial stages itself. Don't feel bad that somebody is correcting your answer sheets. You have to put in effort and write. Let there be grammar errors. It is the headache of the person who is correcting. It is not your headache. You have to write. Let there be a number of grammar issues, spelling mistakes, but please continue writing. Okay. Then, if there is some English answer structuring course which is conducted by some of my friend or somebody, there was one teacher who was conducting a free workshop, etc. with respect to sentence formations and all. I suggested some of the students earlier. So if that is the problem, you can come to me, discuss personally, and I will find a way out for you. You can personally discuss, sir, this is the problem. I will not leave you anyhow. I'll tell you like this is the area where there is a problem. You have to go. Okay, you have to join, you have to write. You have to practice Prezi writing, etc. Means you have to practice, and every 15 days you have to give me an update. I may not be correcting the Prezi writing of yours, but I want an update whether you're really writing or not. This is what we have done with some of my students in the previous batch. So this is one more area where I want you all to focus. So these are the areas. Okay, and related subject topics you have to read, and anyhow we'll be doing workshops with respect to essays continuously. I'll be in touch with you, especially with respect to essay, and that respective faculty related to subject will be doing the workshop with you. So he'll give you a brief idea how do you bring good points with respect to certain questions. So my strong belief is somebody is reading newspaper continuously, your flair with respect to points will be higher than somebody who has not read. Okay, that's my opinion. Okay, that's my opinion. Okay, so till here, I hope things are clear. And in this area, you have any doubt? Here, anything you want me to address? Is everything okay? Fine, huh? Everything is fine. Okay. So these are the areas you have to work on. Okay, then moving forward. So that is something like, okay. So the next area is how do I pick introductions? Okay. So this is something like which I generally teach in our class also. So as Sudesh has also asked, sir, how do you bring in introduction? How do I frame my introductions? Okay. So here, very simple aspect. Don't worry about, writing great introductions. Always remember, don't worry about writing great introduction because that will eat your time. First of all, introduction, everybody will write, we will also write. That is one thing which you keep in mind. For a 10 marker, you need not worry about an extraordinary introduction. Introduction is introduction. Keep that in mind. And whenever I'm writing an introduction, my introduction can be direct or my introduction can be indirect. Don't worry. Don't worry whether it's direct introduction or indirect introduction. So what I mean by direct introduction is, suppose a question is asked like, okay, for example, let's take a question from a previous paper only. Okay, this question, see. So how globalization, see this question, now how globalization has led to reduction of employment in the formal sector of Indian economy. Is increased informalization wrong or problematic in to the development of the country? Now can I get some ideas from you? What kind of introduction we may write for this question? I need your idea. You can put it in the chat box. If you are not okay to put it in the public chat, you put a direct message. Direct message for me. I'll not use your name. I will just use the intros which you have written. That's okay, no? Yes. So, question is visible. Anybody is trying? I hope you're writing something there. Okay. No? Anybody wants to speak out? Okay. Regarding LPG reforms. Okay. And FDI foreign companies, okay. Okay, fine. So, how globalization has led to reduction of employment in the formal sector. So, it's talking about the negative aspect of globalization. We are not going to define globalization here. The question is not about what is globalization. Okay. The question is about the impact of globalization on the formal sector of the Indian economy. Okay, formal sector of the Indian economy. Okay, so when we're talking about globalization impact on the formal sector of the economy, okay, so first of all, yes, after 1991 economic reforms, after 1991 economic reforms, or you can write a direct introduction like 1991 economic reforms has led to over tertiarization of Indian economy, over tertiarization of Indian economy, and there was movement of MNCs into India, MNCs in India, okay, and there was stagnation of manufacturing sector, which has led to informalization of Indian economy. This is one way. Or I can straight away talk about economic reforms here. I can straight away talk about economic reforms. That means here 1991 economic reforms or 1991 LPG policy, which is about the globalization, okay, has led to what? Informalization. Okay. So my introduction will not be about why there was LPG policy. No. My introduction will not be about what is globalization. My introduction will not be about BOP crisis, balance of payment crisis. My introduction can be a link of 1991 and informalization. Okay. So that means after the implementation of LPG reforms, as India was facing economic crisis, okay, there was over tertiarization. I'm talking about over tertiarization of Indian economy, over tertiarization of Indian economy. What is over tertiarization? More of services sector, over tertiarization of Indian economy. And there was opening up of Indian economy. Opening up of Indian economy, I'm talking about open economy. Open economy. And there was more demand for which sector? Services sector. And there was also movement of MNCs into India. Okay, MNCs into India. So these leading to one informalization of Indian economy. Now this is one area which you can observe. Okay. Or you can straight away talk about informalization and formalization in the introduction. This is one way of doing it. Now next part is, can anybody tell me, like in this case, how do you handle this question? How do you handle this question? What is the question asking? How globalization has led to reduction in the formal sector? Can somebody tell me how globalization has led to reduction some sector? Somebody has written structural unemployment, mismatch between required skill and available skill. Okay. Anybody, how globalization has led to reduction in employment in the formal? Any points? Any bullet points? Anybody? What happened, ma? Okay, fine. How globalization has led to reduction in employment in the formal sector? Okay, what are the reasons? What do you think are the reasons? Okay, after globalization, there was competition which has increased, which was coming from MNCs. Okay, because of this competition, what happened? MSMEs could not withstand the competition, micro, small, and medium enterprises. I am talking about formal MSMEs. So the formal MSMEs collapsed. So people working in formal MSMEs lost their jobs. People are out and they work for self. One fellow became chai wala, one fellow became something else. So it has led to informalization. That means competition from MNCs because of globalization has led to problems for micro, small, and medium enterprises or job losses in formal MSMEs and led to informalization. This is one aspect. One aspect of it. Then over tertiarization. jobless growth, more of services sector. So there were informal jobs in the services sector also. Informal jobs in MNCs, informal jobs in services sector also. Okay, so that is one more aspect which you should think of. That is over tertiarization. Okay. Third, after LPG policy, manufacturing sector was stagnant. Manufacturing sector was stagnant means obviously formal jobs creation did not happen. Okay. And problems with respect to license Raj, etc., could not be eliminated completely. Okay. So formalization did not happen. Manufacturing sector was stagnant and formal jobs in manufacturing sector could not be created. Okay. So this was also one more issue, one more problem. Another important aspect is in the secondary sector also, after LPG, the sector that developed at a faster pace is the construction. The growth of jobs is high with respect to construction sector. And the reason for development of construction sector is also globalization. Okay, malls have come up. And most of the jobs in construction sector are not formal jobs. You have the woman carrying bricks from the ground floor to the top floor. Okay, you have construction sector jobs where social security is not there, and most of the jobs which are created here are kind of informal jobs without any social security. So development of construction sector can also be linked to something like our what? Globalization. Got the point, right? Okay, so that is also one more important aspect. What else? Though we came up with first generation reforms after 1991, we failed in terms of maximizing on second generation reforms, that is 1998 plus. So second generation reforms, all those reforms which we implemented after 1998 were called as second generation reforms to stabilize those aspects which we achieved after the first generation reforms. So that was the problem. Okay, so therefore 1998 plays 8 plus second generation reforms, like we focused on labor sector reforms, part of second generation reforms, we failed. What is the problem? If labor sector reforms, what are the problems? Basically, initially, after 1947, we wanted to protect the labor. We came up with liberal labor. To protect the labor, we came up with stringent labor laws. Okay, so for example, with respect to Industrial Disputes Act 1948, etc., what we did was, if in a company there are 100 formal employees, 100 workers, and if the owner of the company has to retrench labor, he has to take the permission of Ministry of Labor and Employment. This is something why we wanted to protect the labor. So what the businessmen started doing is, if you have 100 permanent employees only, you have to adhere to the labor laws. So why unnecessarily create problems when we don't have freedom? So they started going ahead with contract labor. They started going ahead with informal jobs. So the stringent labor laws, which we thought will benefit the labor, has led to lack of job creation on one side. On the other side, it has led to informalization of Indian economy. They were not interested in giving formal jobs because you are restricted in terms of taking a call or a decision with respect to whether you have to retrench the labor or not, and therefore they decided to go ahead with contract jobs, which has led to informalization. So that means India failing in implementation of its second generation reforms, which deals with aspects like labor sector reforms, that is liberalizing labor laws, also is one of the important reasons for informalization. 1991, since manufacturing failed, we could not shift labor from primary to secondary sector. Since our manufacturing sector failed, we were not able to shift labor from primary to secondary, and people stayed with agriculture and disguised unemployment on one side. On the other side, you have this unskilled, unproductive labor with agriculture is also nothing but casual labor, or this is nothing but informalization. Okay, so excessive stress on agriculture, because manufacturing did not do well with respect to creating jobs. We failed in shifting the labor from agriculture to manufacturing, which has put pressure on agriculture and led to informalization with respect to the agriculture sector also. Along with agriculture, we failed in creating jobs in allied services after 1991. We failed in creation of jobs in allied activities like fisheries, etc., which we started focusing especially after 2000s. And that is also one of the reasons for lack of proper job creation. Are you able to get this? Informalization, I think you've got the understood how you will handle it. You've got a fair idea. Any other? So somebody is low wage and low cost production. Yeah, that is the impact of informal. So somebody has written low wage and low cost production in informal. That is the impact, no? Impact of informal. So how globalization has led to informalization is the question, which is the first part of the question. So divide the question. So if I divide the question, you have to address the first part of the question. Then coming to the second part of the question, is increased informalization detrimental to the development of the country? That is another part of the question before writing the conclusion. So how do I address that part of the question is the second challenge. So how is increased informalization detrimental? How can increased informalization create problem to the economy? Can somebody push bullet points? You got the approach now. So can you push some bullet points in the chat? Second part of the question, how increased informalization is detrimental to the country, development of the country, detrimental to the development of the country. What that means indirectly is asking problems of informalization on the Indian economy or the country as such. So one of the main problem of informalization, okay, so it reduced tax base, very good, reduced, somebody has written, very good point, reduced tax base of the country. So what will happen? Government's tax to GDP is going to come down, okay, so it can lead to increase in fiscal deficits of the country, which gives wrong signals to the credit rating agencies, and our investments can also reduce. Okay, fine. Informalization means maximum payments are made in cash. So the money is not getting channelized into the banking system. When the money is not getting channelized into the banking system properly, then obviously credit expansion is going to reduce. And when credit expansion is going to reduce, it can affect the GDP of the country. Another way of looking at it. Okay. Another important aspect of informal sector is problem with informal sector. It can create problems with respect to social security. You're not giving social security. So that means there is no social security, there is no wage parity, and you cannot handle problems or issues with respect to gender inequalities also, with respect to salaries and all in an informal sector. Okay, so that is also another aspect which you can think of in an informal sector. So informalization can create that problem also. Okay, so that is another way of looking at gender inequality, wage for social security, okay, etc. So in the wake of some crisis like COVID, today if you observe, who is affected maximum? Migrant workers, informal sector employees. It's not government job or secured job. Somebody is working in TCS did not get affected. So when there is a crisis like COVID, when there is some abnormal situation, impact will be high on those people who are working in the informal sector. Okay, and that is the reason government wants to bring in reforms with respect to stabilization of informal sector employees. Government is coming up with schemes, etc. And in the wake of increase in contribution of gig economy, okay, and one more important aspect, gig is freelancers, okay, and most of the gig economy, that is, you have Ola cab drivers, you have Swiggy boys, you have pizza delivery people, you have Zomato guys, you have courier delivery boys. All these also will fall under the gig. Now, when we talk about gig can superior people also are good in programming and all. they can also become part of gig. Okay, but at the same time, here you have gig is increasing means there is no social security. More of gig or more of informal jobs means you do not have social security. So when there is no social security, when there is no pension, etc. So when there is no pension, etc., government has to spend more money on pension schemes. So government's pressure or government liability on pension schemes will also increase. Government liability in spending on pension schemes. Why? Because more of gig, more lack of social security means who's going, somebody has to bring that social security, and that government has to increase its spending on pension. So again, that can create problems with respect to increase with respect to government's fiscal deficit. So like this, so there is another part of the question which you have to address here. I hope things are clear till here. Okay, so like that, divide the question, address each area of the question. Okay, so while writing introductions, I generally take two styles of writing introduction in my economy class. So one is I ask students to pull their introductions from history. Okay, you can pull your indirect introductions from history, It can be a norm you can do. Or if you are writing a direct introduction, you just define the topic. You define the topic, define the area. You're defining globalization's impact, or you're defining financial inclusion. Okay, you're directly hitting the question. You're trying to expand what is given in the question. That is called as direct introduction. For writing indirect introduction, I can use history. For example, 1991 economic policy has led to jobless growth. Okay, or India's new economic reforms, though contributed to growth fundamentals, have failed in terms of creating jobs. Anything can be the question. So there will be a crux point from where I can pull my introduction from history. The crux point is 1991. Suppose there is a question on agriculture. That is, India's agriculture since so many decades remained as a subsistence sector. And currently government's focus has shifted from focusing on food security to something like focusing on doubling farmers' income. Or if there is a question on, do you think doubling farmers' income is a possibility in the near future? What measures have to be taken by the government with respect to doubling farmers' income? Like this, there can be any question. So, or there can be question on jobless growth. If there is a question on jobless growth, okay, or suppose if there is a question saying that, okay, government's dependence on, or you can say, economy's dependence on foreign investment or is critical for economic growth. So that means the dependence on foreign investment is critical for economic growth, but over dependence on foreign investment can become even more critical. Discuss. I'm just vaguely giving questions. If government's dependence on foreign investment for economic growth or economy's dependence on foreign investment is critical for economic growth, but over dependence on foreign investment can become even more critical. Now, if there is such kind of a question, again from history, if I have to bring my introduction, again there is a crux point from where I can bring my introduction, that is 1991. So why? Because the dependence on foreign investment for economic growth increased only after 1991 reforms, where after 1991 reforms, what happened is foreign investments in the format of FDIs and FIs started moving into India, which contributed to the economic growth of the country. Okay, and our GDP also started depending on foreign investments moving into the country. So therefore, my crux point for writing my introduction there is again something like the 1991 reforms. Like that, if I have to pull my introductions from history, you will have certain incidents which have taken place in the history, which you should be knowing, which you will be using for bringing your indirect introduction. That is the best way of writing, that is the best way of pushing in indirect introductions from history. For example, you can talk about 1929-30, you have Great Depression. Okay. For example, there was a question saying that So there was a question in the exam, UPSC. The question was something like, though capitalism has pulled many from the clutches of poverty, okay, it has led to increase in inequalities. Discuss. Okay. So though capitalism has pulled many from the clutches of poverty, it has led to increase in inequalities in the economy. Discuss. Now, similar kind of question. Of course, word to word, it is not the same. It is a UPSC 2014 or 15 question. So, there I can take my introductions from Great Depression. Okay. Or I can take my introduction specific to India. If it is, I will take my introduction from 1991. So, India's case, basically a market driven economy has come up after 1990s. But when I take it on a global scale, so I can start my answer talking about Adam Smith's capitalism. Okay, so Adam Smith's capitalism, though it has pulled many from the clutches of poverty, okay, so it has increased it. Why? Because why 1929-30 Great Depression is, this was the period when, okay, a capitalistic country like US also understood that capitalism is not a panacea for all the problems. It can also create problems. So markets are not self-reviving. Markets can fail at times, and they have understood that markets failure can create a lot of issues and problems. And that is when they have understood that, markets, if they fail, there is a need for government's interference. Okay, so therefore my introduction here will move from 1929, 1930 Great Depression, or the crux point can be something like the 1991 economic reforms. Then talking about 1947 plus, if there is a question on agriculture related aspects, you can push your introduction from the first 5-year plan. Okay. Or if there is a question like this, just to show you. Okay, this is, it's not, of course, artificial, it's not pure economic question. Give me 1 second, I'll just show you one more question here. Just to show you the approach. You're getting bored. Now see this, just to show you this question, see here. So this is a question talking about secondary sector growth has lagged behind in the overall growth process in the post-reform period. Okay, and give reasons. First part of the question. What is the impact of muted manufacturing on Indian economy? Muted manufacturing on Indian, it's not doing well. Second part of the question. And what additional measures have to be taken by the government to strengthen the secondary sector? Okay, so you can here in the sense like if it is a indirect introduction, again indirect introduction can flow from 1991. Indirect introduction, you cannot write indirect introduction from second 5-year plan because here it's talking about post-reform period, or you can write directly about secondary sector, how it has lagged behind the GDP growth rates. Okay, so growth of secondary sector of India in the post-reform period, of course, this is a factual introduction. Okay, growth rate of 1.9 and 3.9 GDP growth rate. So this is basically a factual GDP growth rate talking about contribution of Okay, or if I don't want to write a factual introduction, I can write the contribution of secondary sector to GDP remained stagnant after 1991 reforms. Rather, contribution of services sector started increasing, or there was over tertiarization after 1991. This is an indirect introduction. Again, the crux point here is 1991. Okay, for example, there is a question on financial inclusion. Okay, so you can trace your introduction with respect to what is financial inclusion. Okay, do you think government was successful in financial inclusion? What additional measures have to be taken by the government to handle financial inclusion? Okay, so then you can bring in an indirect introduction, probably can flow from Banks Nationalization Policy 1969. So Banks Nationalization Policy 1969, you can bring in indirect introduction when it comes to financial inclusion. I hope you are able to get it. So indirect introduction can be pulled out from history. Okay, and direct introduction, you have to straight away write it from the from the question. Okay, so for writing indirect introductions, keep the crux points like 1930 Great Depression, first 5-year plan, second 5-year plan. Okay, and after early 1960s, food security was not there, continuous droughts. 1965, Food Corporation of India was brought in. Okay, 1966, for the first time, we have devalued our currency. 1969, banks nationalization can be linked up to financial inclusion. Okay, so 1969 plus 70, trying to balance between agriculture and industry. Okay, so like that, you should be knowing few areas. 1985 came up with Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices, which suggests minimum support prices, etc. 1990s, forex reserves went down. We had BOP crisis. We brought in a lot of reforms in the form of LPG. There was a lot of impact with respect to foreign investments. Dependence increased. India became more vulnerable to external sector after 1990s. Our dependence on FDIs and FIs increased. Stock markets became more unstable. SEBI was not ready enough to handle the pressure of stock market after 1991. If there is a question on regulatory bodies after 1991, SEBI is not ready enough to take the burden of stock markets. Okay, take tax reforms after 1991. Then 1998, second generation reforms, labor sector reforms, manufacturing growth. So you can start your intros from the second generation reforms when the question is on labor sector reforms. So when the question is on second labor sector reforms, okay, do you think, there was a question asking that in the 2016, do you think Make in India campaign will become successful only by only through combination of Skill India and labor sector reforms? Discuss. So the question was, Make in India campaign can be successful only through a combination of labor sector reforms and Skill India program. Discuss. So there can be questions like this. And do you think labor sector reforms and Skill India is critical for putting manufacturing sector on a growth trajectory? Discuss. All are related only. We'll prepare similar notes for everything. My intro will also be flowing from 1991 or 1998 second generation reforms, because there's labor sector reforms. Okay, so that is how we will think of bringing in, so somebody is asking like repeat. Okay, repeat. So I've just mentioned like first 5-year plan, second 5-year plan, focus on industry. Okay, and then I've talked about 1966 devaluation of currencies, early 60s. There was problem in early 60s with respect to what? Continuous droughts. We wanted to bring in reforms. FCI reforms came in. We came up with first green revolution. Okay, Norman Borlaug, etc. So if there is a question on talking about modernization of agriculture, the need for modernization of agriculture, okay, and the need for second implementation of second green revolution effectively, etc. So you can think from these areas and bring in your introduction, indirect introduction from there. Okay, so then we talk about MSPs, 1985 CACP. I talked about that, Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices. Then government in 1990s, along with economic reforms, government had to bring in governance reforms also, because we have inclusive growth in our syllabus. So there can be questions on inclusive growth. So when there's a question on inclusive growth, again, you have to trace this logic like Okay, 1991 economic reforms, government along with economic reforms, government also focused simultaneously on uh, governance reform. We came up with 73rd, 74th constitutional amendments. We came up with focusing on grassroots. We came up with schemes like MGNREGS. We started coming up with focusing on TPDS, Targeted Public Distribution System. So TPDS 1997. Okay, so like that, any reforms which government has taken, you should have a picture in mind from the history, so that without thinking much in the exam hall, I'll directly pull my introduction from history. Or you can write a direct introduction right away, taking the question in hand. Okay, so this is something which you have to do. Then after 1997, 2000, etc. Okay, so with respect to budget making, there were questions. I think the previous workshop I discussed. So I would discuss the question saying that budget making process has become even more difficult, public expenditure after the LPG reforms. Okay, so budget making process, that means again, it's about the Washington Consensus, 1991 reforms. Okay, moving from centralized planning to indicative planning. Okay, so like that. So based on these aspects, based on the question, you can pull your introduction from history. So for that, what you have to do, some areas, Indian economic development book, when you're reading, you come across certain critical areas, or at least if you can read the 5-year plan, you'll understand that what has happened at which point of time. So which point of time, what was the focus, like government's focus, you'll get to know. So based on which any question related to unemployment, any question related to over tertiarization, any question related to agriculture, modernization. So once the 5-year plans, you have a fair idea, your introduction, you can pull it from history. This is how you pull out indirect introductions from history. Clear. Always it is better to bring conclusion from current affairs. If your current affairs knowledge is good, you can bring in current affairs knowledge, Atmanirbhar Bharat, etc. You can bring government schemes into picture, so that you show that fellow that you are updated. You're showing the examiner, yes, I am updated. Okay, so this is an additional point. On a positive, optimistic note, I am ending my answer by pushing in current affairs. So that is a better way of writing the conclusion. So intro from history, conclusion in the forward perspective, optimistic perspective, writing that is pushing from the current affair. Okay, I think till here things are clear. Is this clear, everybody? Is it clear? Okay. Okay, so intro from history and conclusions from current affair. Okay, so another important aspect is in the answer, if the content you have, you're pretty clear about the content, think of side headings. Think of side headings which will make the job of the examiner easy. Or you have to think of underlining, writing small paragraph, underlining, or side heading. See here, for example, in this question which I was talking about, okay, so you have this reasons for poor growth of secondary sector in the post-reform period. Okay, so I'm writing side headings here, domination of small firms and low productivity. Okay, restrictive labor laws, side heading. So when you're preparing notes also, these crux points should be there. Issues of skill mismatch, complicated business environment, inadequate spending on R&D, research and development, India doesn't spend much, slow technology adaptation, lack of access to finance, issues of taxation, okay, like inverted duty structure, whatever it is, manufacturing face problems because of taxation also. Okay, so why there is problem? Because of cascading effects with respect to improper tax laws, okay, issues with respect to inverted duty structure, etc., all that. Okay, and then you have issues of logistics, supply chain, etc. Okay, all this is one more problem. If you want to make manufacturing successful, export should be your export should be efficient. Then even our supply chain should be good. Our logistics system should be good, etc. Okay, so this manufacturing sector got affected. So the impact of manufacturing sector on Indian economy, that is another part of the question. I'm only looking into the side heading: lack of jobs, tax collections, reverse migration, increase in poverty, inability of government to increase social welfare spending, CAD increased, tension between union and states because of with respect to tax sharing and all. So like this is another way of writing side headings where the examiner directly will be able to see, okay, fine, this guy is okay, and directly he can give marks without much of a problem. So this is one more style for such questions. Every question you cannot be writing side headings, but this question, see, for a 12.5 mark question, so many side headings are visible means definitely he has to give marks. Remember, it is not about knowledge, it is projection of knowledge. So how do you project your knowledge that you're apt for the your written apt answers for the question, at the same time you're able to give him that impression that yes. Okay, then the another part of the question you can see measures that have taken by the government to revive the secondary sector. Now for such questions, always when you're making notes, that is the reason current affairs becomes important. Whatever you're reading for prelims, it's not going to go waste. Remember, you have to use them for government measures. So measures taken by the government in the recent past. So for example, Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, etc. in news. Okay, so Make in India campaigns, etc. How to make it. Atmanirbhar Bharat spending in 3 phases. So whatever you're reading in current affairs can be given as suggestions, okay, to revive the secondary sector, what government has done. Okay, so this is something which you have to keep in mind. So projects like Sagarmala, all this. Okay, so like that, you should not be wasting your current affairs. Okay, so this is something like very important with respect to the measures taken, your current affairs which you are reading for the prelims. I hope it is clear till here. Okay, so now, okay. So indirect introduction, another one is direct introduction. Okay, so always remember. So indirect introduction and direct introduction bring in conclusion from the current affair. This is what I have explained till now. Okay. Another important aspect which I have discussed through examples also, break down the question and addressing each area separately. And address each area separately. You have to address each area and do justice to each area. Okay. And this collecting facts, is it necessary? Definitely it is necessary. It is compulsory. Some facts have to be there in your note making process. You're reading current affairs. You're reading some data for with respect to manufacturing sector, unemployment, job loss, etc. in the newspaper. From wherever you're reading, that content you just put it down or copy and paste it in your Word document. So when reading something, you get a fact, copy, paste in the Word document. Okay, so that is important because otherwise you cannot substantiate your answer. This is what I was saying. Okay, so flowcharts, is it compulsory? It is not compulsory. Flowchart is not compulsory. Flowchart, wherever it is required, come up with graphs. In economy, come up with graphs. If somebody is showing only 2 indicators in the graph, you can show 3 indicators, a bar graph and a line diagram. So combination of both you can show. You can show investment growth. Okay, so along with investment growth, you can also show contribution of how much investment is coming into a particular sector. Like that, some additional aspect also you can show in the graph. Somebody is showing 2 areas, you can show 3. So graphs are okay, definitely. And flowcharts for 10 marker, be very careful. Your flowchart is not a substitute to your answer. If you're not drawing flowchart also, it's okay. So just don't draw flowchart and just write something and you feel that, okay, my 10 marker is over. So especially for a 10 marker, flowchart is not, not so needed unless and until like time is not there and you want to just write the answer through a flowchart. So in a 10 marker, basically you have to write hardly 150 words. Okay, so answer is better. If at all it is really required, push a flowchart. In a 15 marker, in a 12.5 mark question, yes, if there is a scope for drawing a decent flowchart, please draw. But if somebody is saying drawing flowchart is compulsory, no. But definitely, if the flowchart is making the answer more simple, if your flowchart is able to show him the points more easily, so definitely it will give you an additional half mark edge if you're drawing flowchart. Okay, so that is one more thing which I wanted to mention when you're attempting your economy questions. I think it is clear. Okay, and then very important is catching the pulse of UPSC when you're preparing. It's not about writing, reading that book and all. You also have to refer to some questions from economics optional. There's, of course, I'm asking you, I'll refer some answers, questions which are framed in the economics optional related to general studies can come up in a different format in our GS paper. That research I am anyhow doing. So this is one suggestion which you have to, so Indian Economic Service, there are the last paper there. Okay, so paper 2 you have something like you will find some general GS based questions on globalization, jobs, etc. Similar kind of questions you find in the GS paper. So intelligent way of preparation is taking the data of last 2 years, 3 years, see how questions are coming, Okay, and you have to prepare your content accordingly. Jobs, there are questions, yes. Unemployment, there are questions. Agriculture, there are more questions. Okay, so he's asking questions in this format. Inflation, growth, there were questions. Growth and development, there were questions. Okay, then you are going to make your material also more focus should be given in preparing notes for those areas. So that's some suggestion basically. That is what I call it as catching the pulse of UPSC. And I'll be doing that. You also, when you're preparing, if time permits, you can do. Okay, another important aspect is if you're writing a 10 marker, you see to that there are at least 7 to 8 points. 8 to 10 points, very good. 7 to 8 points, different points, if they are there, definitely side headings are visible. He has to give you marks, no other option. Okay, then when you're talking about a 15 marker question, etc., so you have to be very careful. You have to at least see that 10 to 12 points are visible. Okay, with a nice intro and a conclusion. Nice means a common intro and a decent enough conclusion. So don't try for perfection. It's all about relative performance. Okay, so all this fight is to get that half extra mark, which I've told in the previous aspects. Okay, so writing skill using newspaper. Okay, so for this actually in the editorial column also we are posting editorials regularly in the Telegram channel and some areas will be helpful for you. Definitely some areas will be definitely helpful for you to write answers. Remember this. So for example, which is how do I know which one is more important for me? That you will know only when you know your syllabus by heart. You know this is there in my syllabus, related area is coming in the editorial, and there's this synopsis which we are posting in the Telegram channel of ours, Swayam Shiksha. So that means that area is more important. Okay, so you'll glance through. Okay, 4 points are useful for me. Out of the 7 points, I'll keep those 4 points. Others are not useful. Leave it. Finish. Like that, you have to improve your writing skill using the newspaper. Okay, so till here, I think you've understood what I am trying to say. Everybody, any doubts till here? Okay, fine, good. So now, again remember in general studies paper, the addressing keywords is a difficult challenge. Not just economy, whichever subject it is difficult to. That what I mean by keyword here is suppose you have different keywords. For example, you may have critically evaluate. Okay, you have discuss, you have comment, you have substantiate. Okay, you have examine. Okay, so like that, you have to do it from different quarters. Okay, these are called as keywords. Okay, so 1 second, I'll just. Give me one second. I just wanted to see if the keywords are there. I just want to show you. Give me just 1 second now. Basics. Okay, so you may find different keywords. Okay, so but remember, doing justice in GS paper is difficult because more than keywords, attempting 17-18 questions is important. So if you're not able to figure out the keyword, it's okay. First of all, complete the question. That's very important. But if at all there is a scope for understanding but few aspects you should be very keen on is substantiate. Suppose he's saying. So when you're saying substantiate, it is very clear that some facts have to be written, some numbers, because you cannot substantiate with English. That is one. Examples. You can substantiate with example, or you can substantiate using data. Okay, that is something which you keep in mind. Okay, so then if you find enumerate, when the question says enumerate means he's asking you points only. So enumerate, generally if you find enumerate in the question, it means you're writing, generally you write points format. Okay, so enumerate, so generally point format we will write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so whenever the question is saying discuss, okay, so whenever the question says discuss and all, okay, so discuss generally means you will talk about arguments in favor, you will also talk about arguments against. Okay, so do you think inflation targeting is a better policy or a better approach for deciding monetary policy? Discuss. So, do you think inflation targeting is a better way of deciding monetary policy? Discuss. So, if the question is saying discuss means you have to talk about inflation targeting, positives of inflation targeting in deciding monetary policy, arguments in favor. You should also be talking about arguments against inflation targeting. So, what are the problems if inflation targeting is going to be taken as the criteria for deciding the monetary policy? What are the problems? That is arguments against. And then in the end, whenever we are discussing something, we can't leave it in the middle. You have to come up with a conclusion. So, when two people are discussing something, you can't abruptly end it. No, you have discussed something. You have to conclude something. So, whenever discuss is there, conclusion is compulsory. So, you discuss something, you have to conclude it. So, how are you going to conclude it? So, you need not take a stand on one side. You have to follow Buddha's Madhyam Marg, I say. Or you have to come up with a suitable conclusion in between. Okay, so you follow a middle path and a positive path. Okay, a little optimistic, and you follow a middle path with respect to the conclusion. And don't be pessimistic because you're reading Hindu newspaper. It is the most pessimistic paper on earth where they continuously criticize the government. So please remember, don't tilt your mind as you read in the Hindu paper. So in the Indian Express, I find it more convenient, or Delhi edition, the Indian Express, better for our preparation. Okay, Hindu also, if you are okay, you read, but my suggestion is that. Okay, so conclusion, Madhyam Marg. Okay, now similarly, when you talk about examine means what? You are looking close on each aspect. You are examining. Examine means looking close. Okay, so do you think there was this question, GST reforms brought in by the government, though benefited in terms of increasing tax revenues for the central government, has created certain hurdles for the states. Examine. Just like that, one question. Examine. Means you have to closely look at each aspect with respect to implementation of GST. After implementation of GST, what is the impact? With respect to central government, with respect to state government. You have to closely observe, closely see each and every aspect. But generally, if you don't have content with respect to the topic, that also becomes discuss for you. So, if you have to adhere and do justice to the keywords, it's very difficult. Out of 20 questions, maybe 10 questions you're doing means you're doing good. Okay, so don't worry about that much. Only for few things you have to worry, that is substantiate, etc., where you're bringing in that, facts and all. If you have content, you can do examine. If you don't have content, you will try to make it discuss only. This is what happens in the exam hall because of lack of time. Okay. Then comes in evaluate. So, evaluation, what is evaluation? If you are coming for evaluation to me, what should I say? This is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong. Okay. And you have to conclude based on the above evaluation. I have to come up with conclusion. Okay. Whether the policy is good or bad. I'll take a stand when the question says evaluation. So, if the question says evaluate means, so I'm not going to go ahead with Madhyam Marg in the conclusion, because what is evaluation? I have to say what is right and what is wrong. That is what is evaluation. You ask, sir, please correct my answer sheet. Please evaluate means what? What should I do? I should be evaluating your answer sheet. This is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong. And then I'll say, okay, at the end, okay. So, based on the above evaluation, I'll conclude. I'll take a stand. Okay. So, in evaluation, this is what is the keyword. If possible, you have the content, go ahead with it. If possible, if you have content, go ahead with it. Okay, so that is, then you will file critically analyze or criticize, etc. So critical analysis. So in general, when you say critically analyze means you'll come up with a positive statement, then you'll come up with a negative statement. You'll come up with a positive, then negative, positive, negative. So this negative statement, you're trying to criticize the statement which you have written. So critically analyze is the most difficult thing in the exam condition. Okay, in the subsequent, in our mock discussions we'll discuss, I'll discuss with you. So, but don't worry much about keywords. That should not be your focus. Of course, in the mock test you try to do it, but you have to complete the answer, write the content. That is also important. So I think you've understood some keywords here. Is it clear? Okay, some these keywords. Okay, so these keywords also sometimes where you have content, do justice to the keywords. And especially when the question says substantiate, discuss and all, you will be doing justice to the keyword. Suppose the question says evaluate and all, see to that you come up with evaluation kind of procedure. Okay, right, wrong. And then at the end you take a stand. In discuss, conclusion is compulsory and take a madhyam mark when you are concluding in discuss. Okay, so I think till here I have made some sense with respect to what we are discussing. Okay, so suppose this critically evaluate the success of 5-year plan. Okay, so now this is critically evaluate the success of 5-year plan here. Okay, and in addressing the planned economic development in India. See, conclusion to critically analyze, you can come up with a balanced conclusion only. Okay. Sir, class. So you have to come up with a balanced conclusion in critically analyze also. So in critically analyze, what we have to do is we have to come up with a positive statement, negative statement, positive statement and a negative statement. Okay, and then a forward looking conclusion. For example, it's okay. Okay, so when you're coming up with, for example, if inflation targeting is a better approach for deciding monetary policy, critically analyze means what is the positive statement? Yes, inflation targeting will definitely affect the purchasing power of the poor man. So if monetary policy is decided based on inflation targeting, it is better for the country. Now this is a positive statement. I want to negate it. Over focus on inflation targeting alone will neglect another aspect called economic growth of the country. GDP may get affected. Okay, I have negated my statement and it can affect the country or the economy of the country. So I have written a positive statement of inflation targeting. I try to contradict my own statement. Okay, so that is what is critically analyzed. For example, inflation targeting, if I say, so for inflation targeting, RBI was taking CPI index for inflation targeting. So RBI was taking CPI, Consumer Price Index, for inflation targeting. Okay, so CPI is a good index because it ultimately shows what the final customer or the final individual is paying. So taking CPI index for measuring inflation targeting or for inflation targeting mechanism is good because ultimately CPI index will indicate ultimately what the final customer is paying or the final consumer is paying. That is a positive statement. I want to negate this statement. How do I negate? In CPI, major aspect is food. Maximum weightage in CPI is food. And food inflation is not under RBI's control. Why? Because food inflation is generally supply driven rather than demand driven. So that means you are taking that index in which you have food as the major aspect, major component. Around 44% is food weightage in CPI, right? Okay, so taking an index which has a criteria called food, which is beyond RBI's control to decide its monetary policy. That means you're taking CPI index for your monetary policy, for inflation targeting, and you have food as a major component in that. That means RBI is taking an index called CPI, which is beyond its control for its monetary policy making. So I have negated my own statement, I have hit CPI. CPI positive statement, CPI negative statement. I am trying to play this positive, negative, positive, negative. Okay. Then how do I come up with my conclusion here? Okay. So conclusion here I will come up with something like inflation targeting alone will not handle inflation. There should be a proper coordination between government's fiscal policy and RBI's monetary policy. Or I can say, unless and until there is tandem between RBI's monetary policy and government's fiscal policy, okay, so inflation targeting may not be efficient enough. Okay, so this is I'm trying to bring in a balance between both if you want to make inflation targeting successful. So this is how you try to bring in a balanced conclusion even for a critically analyzed question. Okay till here, right? So elucidate, somebody asked, elucidate, you have to explain it in detail. So you have to explain it in detail. 1 second, show you the keyword. Okay, elucidate is something like you have to, you are explaining things in detail. Okay, each and every area you are trying to explain. It is as simple as explain. Okay, explain the aspect with examples. Okay, so you're explaining, elucidating. You're trying to expand the area. Okay, enumerate is basically you're trying to list the points. List the points. What is asking? Discuss, you're going for and against, and you're coming up with a balanced conclusion. Examine means each area you are trying to go, check on a closed in a closed format. Okay, so facts and figures will become important even for examine. How do you examine something? You have to examine something from close quarters, means you cannot do it without facts and figures, to be specific. Then evaluate means you have to say right and wrong, and you take a stand in the conclusion. Then again critically analyze. Okay, fine. Okay, so I think it is clear till here. Any doubts till here? Okay, so fine then. So I think we'll have one more session also. Don't worry, we'll have a session once you write some answers. So I'll get a picture, like clear picture where you are. And I think I made some sense in terms of giving you like how to write. Okay, so what we will do is tomorrow. Are you ready to write your test? Everybody? Are you guys ready tomorrow? Huh? You're ready or not? No? Yes? Okay, fine. So we'll upload the question paper tomorrow. Today night we'll upload, or tomorrow morning. See, there is a batch that is created for you. Okay, in the mains mentorship or the prelims cum mains mentorship, there's this batch. So in that batch, there will be a column called assignments. Okay, there will be a column called assignments. Okay, so any doubt also you can call. In that assignments, you will find your question paper. Okay, so in the assignments, you will find in the app. Okay, you have to open the app. So in the app, what you will be doing is you will have. Okay, 1 second, I'll show it on the screen. Screen share రాలేదనుకుంటా. రాలేదు. చెక్ చేయమ్మా ఒకసారి స్క్రీన్ షేర్. చూపి. Okay, so now you can see the screen. Okay, so in this you have batches. You go to your batch, and in that you'll be finding this mains mentorship 2022. So those who's in prelim cum main, okay, that is a separate batch. You have main mentorship. So in this you'll go to the assignments column. Okay, so I'll show you some example of a previous batch. Okay, so you go to the you will find students like this there. Okay, go to the assignments column. So you will, when you see these assignments, I am giving late submission also is allowed. I am not blocking it because I don't want to trouble you. So therefore you can write, but see to that you write, because initially I will not be so harsh. You have to write and submit somehow. So you find your assignment somewhere there. You click it, you get the question paper like this. Okay. So you, once you click it, you get the question paper. Okay. So once you see this question paper, so you have our answer sheet also is there like this. You can see the answer sheet. Okay. So some students don't want to take print. Okay. So if you're not taking print and still you're writing, no problem. I don't have any problem, but see to that you draw the margins, because in the exam hall, these margins becomes important. Okay. So if you, and see to that you take a print of this column at least. Okay. So that we can rate you on these parameters. Okay. And if you're not taking a print because you find print as, it is like you have to go out and take a print out and all this stuff, then you should have your whichever paper you're using. So I want you all to draw the margins very properly. Okay. And then after writing it, you can submit it. ఎక్కడుందమ్మా ఇది? Okay. So after writing it, you will submit it. Okay. So you've submitted it. Then we will download it. You will submit it. There's one more column when you open. You can write and you can scan. So use a proper CAM scanner. Any CAM scanner, you will get it as a PDF. You upload it. Okay. Any doubt, you can contact us also. Okay. So CAM scanner nicely. So don't scan separate pages. You're using a CAM scanner, you'll get a PDF complete whatever you're writing. So upload the PDF, we'll evaluate it, we'll re-upload it, you can download it, and once it is correction is done, you will have approved here. Approved means it is correction is over, you can check. Okay. Okay. So once you have submitted, okay, so you can see Hanush here. Okay, so that means it's submitted here. Okay, so once you have submitted, this is your answer sheet. It will be downloaded and we will be re-uploading it. Okay, so once it is like approved means yes, correction is done and we have correction is over. This is what is approved. Okay, so this is the corrected copy. Okay, so like this you can upload it back. Okay, here also scanning is not okay. The boy has not scanned it properly, but okay, fine. So I think you got the point. Okay, so this is how it will be done. And for getting your model answers, okay, so you have the announcement section. Okay, so we will be pushing a link here in the announcement section. We'll give it a drive. We'll give a drive also. Okay, so drive link will be posted here. Okay, so why announcement is you can only download from here. Okay, from the course column you cannot download. Downloads are not allowed. In the course column you can only read. Suppose course column is there. You go to the store, you have your course. So you go to the course column. Okay, so in the course column you will have only the you can't download. You can only read. That is the reason in your batch itself there is announcements. So in the batch itself you have announcements. In the announcement we are going to place a link. So clicking that link you can download the sheets. Okay, so this is what announcements. Here we will post a link, drive link. From there you can download the answers. Okay, and then all the videos will be uploaded in the course. You can watch those videos, test discussion videos in the course. Okay, so test discussion videos can be observed in the course. Okay, so you can go to the course, store is there, where you have applied. Okay, so there, these are the courses. You can go to your course and the video content will be available there. Okay, so that is how you can view the videos here. Okay, so this is how. Don't worry, initially you just start writing and everything will be clear. We'll help you out very properly. Okay, so I think things are clear till here. Maximize this Purna. Okay, fine. That's all, ma. So hope like you'll see initially motivation will be good. Afterwards you'll not write. Don't do that. Try to be consistent. That's all. That is only one suggestion I can give you. Okay, so try to be consistent. Any personal help you want, sir, this area I'm not able to follow, I'm not able to concentrate, you can contact me also. You can tell our person. So we can have one-on-one discussion. I'll sit with you. What can be done, we will see. So that support I will give, provided you're working hard. Okay, so that's all, ma. Thank you. So I'll meet you, I think tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Once you write one or two tests, I'll be back. I'll again discuss with you. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you.